Hello and welcome back to the Faith and Culture Show. I'm Catherine Camp, and this is where we dig into many different things and topics in order to educate ourselves about what's going on around us. And we want to do this because we want to have those conversations that count, conversations with eternal perspective, not just those shallow social conversations that most of us are used to having. Well, today I have a very, very interesting and different guest on the show. We're going to be talking with Elisabeth Miller. She's the daughter of missionaries in Spain. Elisabeth grew up surrounded by European masterworks and acquired a particular love for portraiture. After earning a Bachelor of Science in Biblical Studies from Liberty University, Elisabeth moved to New York City to study with some of the world's best portrait painters. With a Master of Fine Arts and international awards for portraiture, she later settled down to life as professional portrait painter, wife, and mother of 3. The future seemed predictable, but God had other plans. When he began sending intense prophetic dreams at the beginning of 2020, Elisabeth set about painting them as a means of keeping record. Most of us just use a journal, but Elisabeth is incredibly talented, and God makes sure that we use the talents that he gave us. Soon, reproductions were in demand, and all things new art was born. Elisabeth now brings to life and visually records the words, dreams, and visions of modern-day prophets, in addition to offering personal prophetic images as the Holy Spirit leads. You can find out more about this unique body of work at her website, but we get the actual privilege of getting to speak to her today. So let me welcome her.
Hey.
Hi, Elisabeth. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. My goodness, we met, it's been 2 years. I can't even believe that. Was it 2
it was
years?
Mannheim,
Wow.
Pennsylvania at the Reawaken America conference.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. So I'm real excited to have you here to talk about this. This is so different from many of the things that we even think about as, I guess, ministries. But you have a ministry with visuals that you actually create. And I think what struck me was the fact that in early 2020, I think God started waking a lot of us up. And he started really, I believe there was an awakening, a quickening. And when, for those of us who were already listening to him and trying to do his will and using our talents, he pulled us onto different things to do. Mm-hmm. And yours is your artwork. And with your missionary background through your parents, he's really been using your love and your creative talents and your eye for creating beauty. So this is what's so different to me, is the fact that he was showing you visions and you were having these dreams and you put them down on paintings instead of a journal. Do you want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, well, I think I will say that my husband and I he was a Jehovah's Witness. He came from a Jehovah's Witness background, kind of went the way of rebellion. Okay. And then I was sort of in the Baptist evangelical vein of things. But we took our, when he came to the Lord, and I never walked away from the Lord, always felt like the Lord and my faith were the best things that life had to offer. And it was just sort of like, so we kind of, even though we came from different backgrounds, we both ended up in sort of evangelical America, and we're serious about our faith. And so, some years before, we kind of discovered prophecy. I think it was back probably about 8 years ago, but it was more in this sort of personal words of knowledge from one person to another. And we were using it for evangelism, and that was kind of all we knew. And then when 2020 came along, that all changed, we became aware of the fact that God is still speaking and loves to talk about national and global events. But in answer to your question, I think for me, I had been watching the prophetic movement and I kept bumping into these prophetic painters. And they were always just sort of doing abstract pieces or very fast, kind of expressionistic, quick little pieces on stage. And I just couldn't relate to what they were doing. And I thought it was very interesting, and I liked some of it. And I love the spirit behind all of it, but I just couldn't see myself in that picture. And so, however, when I started getting these dreams, I was like, well, I don't know that I'm like a prophetic artist, but I could paint these dreams because I'm a realist and I paint, what I see, and in a very sort of matter-of-factual way. And so I was like, well, I'll paint those dreams, and that's something I can contribute to this scene. And I don't even know if I belong in it, but at least I won't forget these dreams because I knew they were from God. And I guess I paint more than I write, even though I'm an okay writer. But I just felt like that was the most natural way for me to go about recording what God was giving me. So I kicked off by doing that lighthouse painting that I sent you. And that was my first prophetic painting, and it just sort of rolled out from there.
I as you saw, I tried to put this up on, and let's see, we're going to get to that one. I want you to talk about all of these, but it cut off the lighthouse. But if people can see the base here, it's like a column in the midst of this storm.
Yes.
And there's a lighthouse on that column that's standing independently of everything else. And it's just being hit by waves, and it's dark. And is there a little house behind it?
Yes. I'm just seeing if I can I'm going to see if I can just pull up on my website and then hold the screen up to my camera. Yeah. So that was, let's see, where's this thing? All Things New. I want to take that up here. Yeah, so that was, that dream was, it was early on in 2020, and I was sleeping one night, and it's interesting, towards the end of the night, sort of like when my sort of rambling dreams were over, all of a sudden it was like the spirit takes over, and I enter into this really intense, very intentional dream where I'm in this lighthouse atop that rock that you saw there. And, as you might be able to tell from that rock, you really can't get off of it. You've got Niagara Falls behind you, and you're stuck in this little tiny lighthouse on this rock with this wall of water behind you, and it's pouring rain. And this little lighthouse that I'm in is really struggling under all the rain and the torrent. And I was sitting in the room at the back of the house and looking out the back window the moment that the water finally kind of the waterfall filled so much that the water hit the foundation of a home. And the roof was leaking, the ground was just shaking from the power of the water. And I kind of go into panic mode in this dream. I'm like, I'm going to die, we're going to get torn off this rock, and I'm going to get smashed on whatever is down below. So I turn and leave the window, and I walk into the main part of the lighthouse, and the dream only gets worse because I hear children running and playing throughout the house. So I'm like, now I have to try to save my own life plus a group of children. So I then encounter this tall man who's got sort of, shoulder length, golden blonde hair. And he's in the main sort of kitchen of this lighthouse lightkeeper's home. And he's preparing for a party. He's like getting ready. He's got a batter bowl, and he's mixing up batter for a cake. And he's got these little party banners hung around the room. And he's got a little cook stove. He's going to put his cake pans and batter into. And I just lay into this guy because I'm in panic mode. I'm operating in fear. So I start scolding him, like, what are you doing? We need to have a plan. We need to call for help. There you go. And so he never said anything to me. He looked up at me with this look of sort of disappointment in his face. And you just sort of know things in God dreams. And I instantly knew that, number one, he recognized the fact that I was not living by faith. I was living by fear. And he expected more of me than that. He had a reason to expect better of me. And then the other thing I got from his expression was that there actually was a plan. There was a plan for salvation from this situation. I just didn't know it. I hadn't been given that knowledge. And then the dream ends. And as I'm filtering out of sleep, I think it's the tail end of Psalm 29, where God says, it's like the Holy Spirit is speaking this verse back to me. I am the God of the floodwaters. Like, I think it's like I give my people strength, and I will give them peace. And I just wake up to 2020. And as I like to say, the rain has been coming down steadily ever since. However, I feel like we've broken through something. I don't know that we've seen the last of the floodwaters. Sometimes it gets a little crazier before things are fully flushed out. But I do think, and I'll just be honest with this.
Hey, thanks for watching the Faith and Culture Show. If you'd like to continue this particular episode, please go to the Rumble link below or click on the QR code and join me on the free speech platform over there. Look for the name of the episode and start about the 10-minute mark. I hope to see you there because it's a good one.